Hi everyone, Radhe Radhe. So in this video we're going to be doing chapter 8 verse 3. And here Bhagwan Shri Krishna started answering the questions that Arjun asked. And I think these are extremely important questions because Bhagwan Shri Krishna had said something in the last verse of chapter 7, 730, mentioning these three words that Arjun has been asking. In chapter 8 verse 1 and 2, Arjun asks, what are those words, what do you mean by them, what do they mean? And he asks basically 7 questions total. I think that's what now Bhagwan Shri Krishna is starting to answer them, and one of the questions that's very important is, how do we remember you at the time of death? Because death is very difficult, and how do we make sure to remember you at that time? Because that will give us the liberation as well. We don't even need anything, just one moment. If we remember God at the last moment, the moment of death, if we remember God, that's it. We don't even need this whole lifetime of preparation, of chanting, of studying, of all of this knowledge that we're building up. All of this is just in preparation for that one moment that we have during death. But yes, there is no loss to it, because whatever we learn, we carry over to the next life. So yes, nothing to worry about. It is never lost. The benefit of this is always there. When we're traveling from Delhi to Chennai, I'm just giving that example, and we stop in the middle or in Bhopal. Delhi is north and Chennai south, and Bhopal is in the middle. So just in case you don't know. So if we stop at Bhopal and we get off the train station at Bhopal and we get off in Bhopal, we can stay there for 1 day or 10 years or 50 years. It doesn't matter. When we're starting back on our journey, we're starting from Bhopal to Chennai. We're not starting back from Delhi to Chennai. Unless we literally took steps back to go to Delhi, that's a different situation. But if we've just stopped for a little bit, we just continue from where we are. That's a beautiful analogy. Okay, so let's sing the verse together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavodhyatmamochyate Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visargah Karma Sangitaha. Okay, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Bhagwan Sri Bhagavan said, the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. I think I'm going to have to listen to like 3 or 4 different lectures by 3 or 4 different people in order to understand this verse. But that's the beautiful thing, is now I'm starting to understand that it's possible for me to understand once I listen to those great long lengthy lectures, and then I can distill it down for you guys here. But yeah, it takes a long time. It takes maybe 7-8 hours to listen to those 3 or 4 different lectures, because each lecture is about 1.5 hours or something, 6 hours if I listen to 4. So yeah, it is a process. And not all of them are that long, but still, it is a process to listen to this and to understand this. But I'm going to just do the best I can, and yeah, we'll make some progress every day, right? Even if it's not the perfect thing that we can possibly do, even if we can't spend 6 hours every day listening to lectures, and then we can at least spend a few minutes and read through it and get some understanding of it, and eventually we'll start to deepen our understanding. Okay. Let's do the word by word. Sri Bhagavan said, Aksharam, indestructible, Brahma, Brahman, transcendental, Paramam. Paramam means supreme. So Swabhava, eternal nature. So the transcendental, indestructible living entity is called the Brahman. Okay, so indestructible, transcendental is called Brahman, and then the next part, eternal nature, is called Adhyatma. So Swabhava Adhyatmam is called. So the eternal nature is called Adhyatmam. Bhuta Bhava Udbhav Karaha, producing material bodies of the living entities. So action pertaining to the development of material bodies. Visarga, creation. karma from fruitive actions. Samgitaha is called. So, is called karma or fruitive action. So basically any of the actions that are pertaining to the development of the material bodies, those are karma, those are fruitive actions. Okay. So he talks about Brahman obviously here, right? The self is we are Brahman, basically. He's saying that the transcendental living entity is called Brahman. So this is probably something that impersonalists really take very, very seriously. And this is probably something that they refer to. So then that's why Prabhupada explains here that Brahman is indestructible and external, but beyond Brahman there's Para Brahman. Para Brahman is God. So constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position in the material. In material consciousness, we want to be Lord, we want to be the supreme enjoyer. But in Krishna consciousness, the position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. This is called karma. Okay, and then so Jivatma in Vedic literature, a living entity is called Jivatma and Brahman. So the living entity is called Brahman. So maybe the Brahman impersonalists are right. We are Brahman. We are actually Brahman. But the thing is, we're not Para Brahman. So we're not Krishna. We're not God. I mean, Brahman is an aspect of God, but we're not God because we are Jivatma and we are Brahman. And he says here that we are Brahman. I'm very confused. I have to listen to a lot of lectures in order to understand this. Okay, so we're called Supreme Lord's marginal energy. So yeah, we take a body of however many species of life, 8,400,000 species of life, but in spiritual body we only have one body. So he talks about the Upanishads talking about sacrifices. There are 5 kinds of offerings. There are 5 kinds of fire. I don't understand this at all. Are conceived of as heavenly planets, clouds, earth, man and women. And 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon. I don't understand that at all. What does that mean? Rains, grains and semen. And I'm like, okay. So he talks about rains comes from grains, and like in 3:14, this is what he's saying, and I've never understood that. 3:14, yeah, he's saying that, and I've never understood that, but he talks about that. That when the merit of sacrifices is exhausted, we do sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planet, and we get them. And when we've burned off the good karma, then the living entity descends in the form of rain. So the living entity descends in the form of rain, then takes the form of grains. The grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman, and the living entity then attains a human form to perform sacrifice and repeat the cycle. So when we fall back down after doing from Swarglok, from heaven, after we have exhausted our karma, good karma, then we are falling down as rain, and then it gets transformed into semen, which then gets, wow, very complicated, very complicated. Okay. So then he talks about the impersonalists. Chapter 15 verse 7 talks about it. I haven't read it, and I'm not, so please read this if you want to understand in more detail, because right now my brain is extremely foggy, for one thing, because I've not been sleeping. I've not slept the last 2 nights. And I've had an amazing time, but my brain is foggy for sure. And this thing is way complicated anyway. So even if my brain wasn't foggy, I think I would need to listen to a lot of lectures in order to really understand this. So hopefully I'll understand it at some point. Whenever I understand it, whenever I've listened to those lectures, I will absolutely share it with you. I would be happy to. Would love to. Okay. So, Vedas address God by several names. Brahman is one of them. Now he's saying supreme entity is called Brahman. Now, but there he was saying the self was called Brahman, so I'm totally confused now. Adhyatma has 2 meanings. One is the science of the soul, and the second is path to spirituality. Again, I don't really understand that. Like science. Whatever. Okay, that's it for this verse. We'll do chapter 8, verse 4 in the next video. I hope I didn't confuse you. I mean, I'm sure I did confuse you, but it's Bhagwan Shri Krishna. You can blame him, not me. He's the one that's confusing. He's the one that's writing all these kinds of confusing things. Okay. Wish you a day filled with spiritual growth. Radhe Radhe.